Most people looking at the Kelowna condo market right now are reading updates from the real estate board, but that info has a blind spot. Nearly 1 in 5 condos that sold last quarter, they canceled their listing and they relisted it at a lower price. This resets the days on market clock to 0. So the market looks faster and more seller friendly than it actually is. So I went through all of the 318 Q1 sales, and I'm going to show you what the numbers look like when you account for that. I'm Mark with KelownaCondos.ca. Let's get into it. So here's a quick note before I dive in. This data covers Kelowna and West Kelowna only. There's no Lake Country, there's no Big White, and I pulled out all the leasehold condos because they sell less frequently and at different price points. And I didn't want that skewing the numbers. So 318 sales for the quarter. January had 76, February had 104, and March jumped to 140. That's a pretty big ramp up from the start of the year to the end of March. Sales numbers are growing every month. And if we use March at the current pace, which makes more sense than averaging the whole quarter, there are 914 active listings on the market right now. At 140 sales a month, that's about 6.5 months of inventory. Anything over 6 months is a buyer's market. So we're still in a buyer's market territory, but just barely. We're much closer to a balanced market than we were at the start of the year. I always separate these two because they attract different buyers at different price points. So apartments, they saw 206 sales. The median price was $430,000. The average days on market was 75. Townhomes, there were 112 sales. The median price was $686,500. The average days on market was 71. Townhomes, they moved a little faster and sellers got a little bit more of their asking price. But honestly, both of these categories are still in a buyer's market right now. Apartments have 6.6 months of inventory. Townhomes are at 6.4 months. One thing to note is that just because it's a buyer's market doesn't mean that sellers are going to accept low offers. If the condo or townhome is priced right, and if it shows well, there's a good chance that other buyers are going to be interested in it as well. This one's interesting. So we'll do apartments first. 1 bedrooms, there were 47 sold. That's 23% of the market. 2 bedrooms, 149 sold. That's 72%. 3 bedrooms, only 10 sold. Basically nothing. So 3 out of every 4 apartment sales were 2 bedrooms. This tells me that the difference between pricing on 1 and 2 bedrooms is close enough that most buyers are going to choose 2 bedrooms. So let's look at the townhomes. 2 bedrooms were 20% of the sales. 3 bedrooms were 67%. And 4 bedrooms were 13%. So the same idea. The 3-bedroom townhome is where the market is. And this makes sense because buyers often choose townhomes for the extra space or bedrooms. If you're selling a 1-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom townhome right now, you've got a much smaller pool of buyers. Pricing is going to have to do more of the work. So let's split this into apartments and townhomes because they look completely different. So let's look at the pricing. Apartments first. Under $400K, there were 81 sales, which was 39%. 400 to $600K, 97 sales, or 47%. Now 6 to 800,000, there were 15 sales, 7%. Above 800,000, there were only a handful. So 86% of apartment sales were under 600,000. That is the market right now. Townhomes are a completely different picture. Under 400, there were only 2 sales, basically nothing. Finding a townhome under 400,000 is pretty hard. But 4 to 600,000, there were 35 sales, which represented 31%. 600 to 800,000, there were 49 sales, or 44%. Now, 800 to $1 million, 15 sales, or 13%. Over $1 million, 11 sales, 10%. 3/4 of all townhome sales fell between 400 and 800,000. But the sweet spot is that 6 to 800,000 range. And if a townhome comes up under 600,000, buyers who've been watching, they tend to book showings quickly. If you find this breakdown helpful, go ahead and subscribe. I do this every quarter, so you always have a current read on what's actually happening. Here's a quick explanation on months of inventory since I keep referencing it. Under 3 months means that sellers are going to have the upper hand. You'll see multiple offers and the homes are selling fast. 3 to 6 months is balanced. That means that both sides have room and time. Over 6 months is a buyer's market. Sellers have to be priced right or they're going to sit. Using March's data as the current rate, overall inventory sits about 6.5 months. Apartments again are at 6.6 months. Townhomes are at 6.4 months. All three numbers are right on the line between a buyer's market and a balanced market. That's actually the story of Q1. This market is much closer to a balanced market than the headlines are going to suggest. And if March's momentum carries into Q2, we could be looking at a more balanced market conditions by summer. So this one needs a bit of context before I give you the numbers. When a seller cancels their listing and relisted at a lower price, the days on market counter resets to 0. So nearly 1 in 5 properties that sold in Q1 did exactly that. So the MLS numbers, they make things look faster than they actually are. But if you use cumulative days on market, which counts the total time from first list to sold regardless of the relisting picture, this is going to change the numbers quite a bit. The true average time to sell in the first quarter was 103 days. The median was 76. Apartments took an average of 96 days. Townhomes, they took 115. And by price range, here's what the real numbers look like. Under 400,000, 93 days. 4 to 600K, 95 days. 6 to 800K, 123 days. 800 to a million, 118 days. Over a million, 114 days. The 600 to 800 range is sitting the longest by a significant margin. If you're selling in that range and you're not priced right from day one, you're going to be looking at a long road ahead. We're going to see the same issue here. So the standard MLS sale list to sold ratio, it compares the sold price to whatever the seller dropped their price to before it sold. But that's not the full picture. When you compare the sold price to what the sellers originally asked, the number looks completely different. Overall, sellers got about 95% of their original asking price. That's 5 cents off for every dollar they originally wanted, not 3% like they report. By price range, under 400K, 94%. 4 to 600K, 94.8%. 600 to 800K, 96.3%. 800 to a million, 96.5%. Over a million, 95.2%. What's interesting here is that the higher price tiers, they actually held closer to the listing price. The entry-level condos or lower price condos, they gave up the most. And it's probably because units in this price point, they either might need updating or they might be priced that way for a reason. The takeaway is the same as the days on market. Pricing right from the start matters a lot more than most sellers want to hear. Of the 318 sales, here's who was living there at the time. Vacant listings were 46%. The owner-occupied listings made up 38%. Tenanted listings made up 7% of the sales. That tenanted number is low for a reason. Tenanted units, they're harder to sell. And this isn't new though. They've often showed poorly and they're harder to get into. And then the BC government rule changes make it daunting for a buyer to want to buy them. If you're a seller with a tenant, you need to think about this before you decide to list. So remember, this is Kelowna and West Kelowna only. Lower mission sales accounted for 69. That's 22% of the whole quarter. No other area is even close. Downtown Kelowna, 46 sales. West Kelowna combined, 48 sales. South Pandosy, 30 sales. Springfield and Spall, 27 sales. Glenmore and North Glenmore combined, 37 sales. Rutland North and South, 31 sales. And the University District, 12 sales. Lower Mission keeps coming up on top. There's lots of product, there's lots of price points, and there are a lot of different buyers. It's a well-balanced market. A few things I took away from this Q1 data was volume is building through the quarter. 76 sales in January to 140 sales in March. Whether that keeps going into Q2 is the thing to watch. 2-bedroom apartments and 3-bedroom townhomes are what buyers want right now. If your unit is something different, price is your main tool. The true time to sell is longer than the MLS makes it look, and the sellers are giving up more of their original asking price than the standard ratio suggests. Pricing right from day one is going to make a real difference in this market. And tenanted properties, they're hard to sell right now like always, and the data backs this up clearly. Overall, we're in a buyer's market right now, but it just barely. The selection is good, the time is real, negotiating room is good. But the market moved a lot more in Q1 than most people realize. So that's the Q1 2026 breakdown for Kelowna and West Kelowna condos and townhomes. If you're ready to move past the research phase, My booking link is in the description below. That's where we will figure out what these numbers mean for your specific situation. And here's another thing. If you've been using KelownaCondos.ca to do your homework, I want to say thank you. My site exists because of people like you, and it's become the most visited condo site in Kelowna because you keep coming back to it. I appreciate that more than you'll ever know. So here's one question for the comments. Did any of this information surprise you? Let me know below.